Imagine you woke up one day and decided that you're going to go hiking or on a long walk in a lonely, secluded forest or hiking trail. And picture this. At some point, you find yourself standing alone in the middle of an open field, just enjoying the moment and looking at the hills all around you and enjoying the silence. But suddenly, dark clouds roll in. The sky, once bright and blue, is now a swirling mass of gray. You're very far away from your car. You're about 5 miles from your car. There is no one in sight. And the wind begins to howl, pushing against you with unrelenting force. And within minutes, before you could even figure out what's going on, rain starts to fall. Light at first, then heavier, pounding against your skin. You search for shelter, but there is none, really. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The storm is here. Even if you decide to run back to your car, you're going to be running in the storm, and there is nothing you can do to stop the storm. Fear begins to creep in. You feel small against the power of nature. How long will this last, you wonder? Will I make it through? Will I get to my car? Will I make it to my car? Will I have the strength to endure? You speak to yourself. Now, this storm is a metaphor for life. It's your friend here, Dr. Mpalyenkana, and welcome to Tap the Good. There are moments when we face uncertainty, moments when we feel tested beyond what we can think we can handle. Maybe you're waiting for a breakthrough, you're waiting for a love life, you're waiting for a job, an opportunity, for a court case to be, for you to win. You're waiting for a healing, for the doctors to tell you that finally you're okay. You're waiting for that dream you've been working toward for years. But instead of progress, all you see is delay. You're tired of waiting. You're so sick and tired of waiting. You pray, you work hard, you do everything in your power to move forward, and yet nothing changes. The doors remain closed. The path remains unclear. In those moments, patience feels like a punishment. How can I be patient? Where do you get even the patience? Patience is the farthest thing from your mind. But what if patience isn't about suffering? Even if you feel in those moments that patience is a punishment, who expects you to be patient when you're suffering? But what if patience isn't about suffering? What if it's about preparation? What if, like the storm, the waiting period is not meant to break you, but to shape you? In Isaiah 40:31, regardless of whether you're a Christian or not, it's written, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." Waiting upon the Lord in the Bible, the Bible is very mystical. It's like a story with very, very many interpretations. By waiting upon the Lord is actually really waiting upon yourself, the power within you. Because the power within you that is infinite, that is constant, that power, that force of life that doesn't die, because in actuality, death is not the opposite of life. Because if death was the opposite of life, then if anybody died whenever people left their bodies, then life would be decreased. But the life in you, that's God, that is always renewing your strength. And when you trust life, you shall mount up with wings as eagles. You shall feel the strength to wait and know that whatever came has to go. And you shall not be tired. Because we are reminded in this verse in the Bible that those who wait upon, this life, they'll be renewed. But the promise is tied to patience, to waiting with faith, to trusting that even in the storm, something greater is happening beneath the surface. Now let me share a powerful story from nature, the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. When a bamboo tree is planted, nothing happens for an entire year. Can you imagine? Then another and another, still nothing. By the third year, doubt creeps in. Maybe the seed was never good to begin with. By the fourth year, frustration takes hold. After all, how long can you water something and see absolutely nothing, no results? And imagine you've been watering this seed, waiting for the bamboo tree to blossom. But in the fifth year, something extraordinary happens. Often overnight, the bamboo tree shoots up, growing nearly 90 feet in just a few weeks. Now you may ask, what was happening in those first 4 years? Beneath the surface, where no one could see, the tree was growing deep, strong roots. Roots strong enough to sustain its rapid growth when the time was right. And isn't that how life works? Sometimes we are doing everything right, working hard, praying, staying faithful, and yet we see no visible results. But just because you can't see the growth doesn't mean it ain't happening. God works in seasons. The delay is not denial. The waiting is not wasted. There is purpose in the process. You see, we live in an era of instant gratification. We want results now. We want success now. We want healing now. And when things take longer than expected, we grow frustrated. We compare our journey to others, wondering why their bamboo tree is growing while ours remain unseen. But patience isn't about waiting passively. It's about trusting the unseen work happening beneath the surface. It's about knowing that what is meant for you is coming, not in your time, but in the right time. Think back to a time in your life when you felt stuck. Maybe you were working tirelessly, but saw no results. Maybe you were healing from a heartbreak, but the pain refused to fade. Maybe you had lost a loved one, but the mourning and the sorrow and the sadness and that feeling of separation from your loved one, knowing that you may never see them physically again, is literally tearing you apart. Maybe you had a dream, but every door you knocked on remains shut. Maybe you've been waiting for so long to attract love, but you've been single for years and nobody seems to even look your way. Maybe you've been praying to have a child, but that hasn't happened yet. Maybe you've been waiting to get a job, but you've been turned down. Maybe you've been waiting for your dream that you've been working on for years, but it ain't materializing. Now, during these times, it's tempting to give up in those moments. But what if you are in your fourth year of growth? What if just beyond this season of struggle, your breakthrough is waiting? Some of the greatest leaders, artists, and visionaries faced years of failure before their moment arrived. You guys have written 12 books and none of them has become a bestseller. But because the dream is driving me, I can't stop. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers. Now let's go to the Bible where Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and imprisoned before he became second in command in Egypt. But through every setback, God was preparing him for his purpose. Now let's go to David, who was anointed as king long before he actually took the throne. He had to endure years of trials and opposition before stepping into his destiny. It's as if the harder your journey, the grander the gift, the grander the manifestation. But that depends on what you're trusting. Are you trusting the challenge, or you're trusting life? You're trusting the fact that if you are alive, life will support you. As long as you trust God, there is nothing to be afraid of. Let's even talk about Jesus himself. He spent 30 years preparing for a 3-year ministry that will change the world. You know, he was beaten. He was struck, his clothes were peeled off. Humanity put a throne of thorns on his head. He was spat on. He was shamed, but he remained faithful in God. And this has nothing to do with religion. This has everything to do with the greatest story ever told. Jesus came to teach us how to be one with God, to show us that if we are faithful, nothing is impossible. Jesus, like many other enlightened teachers, show us that if you believe, if you hold on, if you're patient, if you're trusting in God within you, life within you, or Buddha or Allah, or whoever you think and believe is your higher being, your victory is only around the corner. You're being prepared. All these people, if they had given up, if Jesus had given up, if David had given up, if Joseph had given up, if the guy who created KFC has given up, and if Trump had given up, if they had given up, history would have been written differently. So I ask you today, what if you're just one season away from your breakthrough? There are 3 ways to build resilience and patience. Number 1, shift your perspective. Instead of seeing delays as obstacles, see them as preparation. Life is strengthening your foundation, just like the bamboo tree. And I think I heard this quotation from Muhammad Ali. He says, don't count the days, make the days count. Don't count how many days you're waiting. Don't count how many days you're struggling. Don't count how many days you've been, working so hard to get to your dream. Make those days that you're waiting count, meaning anchor your faith in your destination and anchor your faith in the source of all things. Number 2, practice mindful waiting. Know that every delay, every challenge is an opportunity to grow in wisdom, faith, and character. Patience is a virtue. We have to learn how to observe and use faith, not to take action, but to lay back and wait for our source to deliver. And I'm not saying that you don't take action, but you don't use faith as your action, to take action. You use faith to lean into your source, to lean into the unknown. You use faith as your comfort zone, knowing that something bigger than you is taking over, is in charge. But you can act. Your faith is not in your actions. Your faith is in yourself and the relationship you have with your source. And then you have to stay consistent. Your breakthrough will come when you're ready for it. Keep showing up, keep planting, keep believing. As long as your faith is anchored in your source, you will have the fuel, the inspiration, the enthusiasm to keep believing, to keep moving, to keep acting, to keep showing up, to keep working on yourself. If it's love that you wanna attract love, to keep loving yourself, to keep forgiving yourself. If it is sorrow that you want to let go, to keep forgiving yourself, to keep believing that everything that comes goes. Now, my final thought is the seed is growing. You are not failing, my friend. You are not forgotten. You're growing just like the bamboo tree. So the next time you find yourself caught in a storm, standing in the rain, wondering if you will ever see the sunlight again, remember this. The storm is not here to break you. It's here to shape you. Be patient. Trust the process. Trust your source. Like I said, use your faith to anchor you in your source, in God, in the unknown. Know that you're supported as long as your heart is still beating, as long as life is still in you, as long as your body is still warm. The sky is not even the limit. Infinity is the limit. Because one day when you least expect it, you rise up. And when you do, the world will marvel at the strength you built while no one was watching. So hold on. Your time is coming. I am sending you abundant love from my heart to yours. Keep shining.